Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of One-on-One Coaching, where we believe we not only have the right to control our lives, we deserve to create them. Today, I wanted to share a little bit of a message of fairness based on a reading that I was catching up on from the Bible. But this is not a Christian message, but it's really inspired from it because it speaks into the idea of fairness and what it is. In this story, if you actually are into Christianity or you want to just read the Bible in this specific parable that I'm using, it's found in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 20, verses 1 through 16. And to summarize, the idea is that this is something that Jesus uses to um, speak into the concept of the fairness of salvation. But that's not where I'm going with it. I actually read it a whole different way. And the story goes that a vineyard owner needed some help, so he went out of town to hire some help, and so he goes out early morning at 7, finds some people. He talks to them. He agrees to pay them a fair wage for the daily work, and then he keeps going through town and see if he can find somebody else. So as he walking, he keeps seeing people standing doing nothing. So it's probably around noon. He hires a couple more. Then he keeps walking, and at 3 o'clock he hires a couple more, and then at 5 o'clock he hires a couple more. Always promising to pay a fair wage or pay what is just, I think is one of the words that he uses. Now, when it comes time to pay the workers, he starts paying them from last to first. So he pays the guys that started working at 5 first, then the guys that started working at 3, then at noon, and at 7. And as you go through it, the ones that were hired first noticed that everyone was getting paid the same amount. So they started complaining about how is that possible that you pay them exactly the same wage when we've been here all day long and we're just getting paid the same amount. The landowner's response is two two-sided in the sense that he says, one, didn't we agree to pay you a certain amount of money for that amount of labor? Yes or no? And the answer is yes. And then he says, I'm the one that's hiring, so I'm free to do with my money whatever I want. If I want to pay this person that I hire for less time, the same amount, that's up to me. And the point of that is simply that to say that there's always the opportunity to be saved. That's the Christian message, but how I read it was different. And it's the concept of fairness. We probably, both of us, would think that it's very unfair that the person that worked more hours, had more effort given to the task at hand, was paid the same amount that the person that started working at 5 o'clock. So somebody maybe worked an hour, the others worked 10 hours, 12 hours, who knows? But they're both getting paid the same amount. And we would say that's not fair. I want to speak into the fact that I think it actually is fair. Uh, from one perspective, based on the spirit of this podcast, is one, we have the power to choose. The person that the worker that got hired made the choice to agree to a certain wage, whether that was at 7 o'clock, 12 midnoon, 3 o'clock, or 5. They agreed to the wage, a wage, and the control of how much that was came from the owner, but still, the choice is the person's. So if we are agreeing to something, then we should be okay with our agreement, regardless of what other people are doing with it. It should not come into consideration. It happens because we're human, but that's one thing. The other thing is realize that in the story, the individuals, the workers, are agreeing to play by the rules of the landowner. if you translate that to our world, we're agreeing to play with the laws of the universe and the laws of success. I believe there are laws to success. I'm still learning them. I'm still learning to execute them. I'm not a millionaire, but I'm working through the process and I'm seeing a lot of them work for me. Some of them I'm not applying properly, some of them I am. I'm still working on playing the game of how the universe works and how things are created. And if I learn, depending on how fast I learn them and I apply them, that's how fast and soon compensation will come in return. And that is where fairness is. Fairness is not about trading hours for a certain wage or a certain compensation. Fairness comes from the idea that everyone is able to play the game with the same rules. And that is actually existing. If you take it from a different perspective in terms of wages, we may want to be narrow and think about hourly wages, and I work 10 hours, so should we pay this? And that person worked 1 hour, and should we pay that? And yet, right now, there are people making millions of dollars a second or $1 million an hour, or somebody learned how to do something in the same space I'm in, and they're making 10 times what I'm making now. It's happening right now, and I think it's important for us to gain or reset the right perspective. It's not so narrow as to say the world is not fair because this person has more and they've worked less. Why, if you don't, maybe you should just think that that person's playing with the rules and he's playing with the game a lot better than you are. And that's where I'm actually pointing towards. That's my reflection. Think about it. What are the rules of the game? Play the game. Realize that you are deciding to exchange and commit to a certain set of rules, and those rules apply to you based on your definition and your agreement to play by them. It has nothing to do with anybody else. So hopefully that brings some ideas. Let me know what insights you get. Let me know what questions you have, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.